Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Bien? ¿Más o menos? ¿O mal? ¿Súper bien? ¡Ay, qué bueno! Yo también. En la clase de hoy vamos a aprender el verbo to give, que en español se dice dar. And think about how many times a day, in a week, in your life, you use this verb to give. He gave me the book. I gave him the package. Oh, the verb to give, it's very practical, it's very useful. You need it to communicate with about anything with anybody. You really need this verb. You need to master it. You need to know it in present. You need to know it in past, simple. You need to know it in perfect to start. Just those 3 tenses to start. Then we can get to more complex tenses. In today's class, we're going to learn to conjugate the verb to give. And as I said, present, past simple, pretérito indefinido, as we call it in Spanish, and imperfecto, pretérito imperfecto, as we call it in Spanish. Your equivalents in English, if your first language is English, the equivalents will be, for example, to give, gave, and used to give, or in a different period, back in the day, I would give, I used to give, I gave, but something that goes for a longer period of time. Muy bien, entonces vamos a aprender estos tres tiempos, these 3 tenses, but we are also going to learn how to say, for example, I gave it to him, he gave it to me, they gave that to us, etc. How to use it, not only conjugating this verb, but also to use it with the indirect pronouns, with the indirect and direct pronouns. Entonces vamos a empezar. So I'm going to say the word and you're going to go with me and repeat it. Yo doy. Tú das. You give. Él da. He gives. Ella da. She gives. Usted, formal, you, formal, da. Usted da. Nosotros damos. We give. Nosotros damos. Ustedes dan. You, plural. You guys, you girls. You, plural. Ustedes dan. Ellas dan. They, as in a group of women. Ellas dan. Say it. Ellas dan. Ellos dan. Ellos is for a group of men or a group of mixed people. Women, men, whatever. Say, ellos dan. Okay? En España dicen vosotros dais. Eso lo dicen en España. They say that in Spain, vosotros. And vosotros, they use it instead of ustedes, right? And in Hispanoamérica, in Latin America, we say ustedes instead of vosotros. But if you need the vosotros because you're going to go to Spain, then you can use this one. Muy bien. And obviously with the pronoun vosotros. Vosotros dais. And you have to pronounce that S, right? The S has to be important. Vosotros dais. Vosotros dais. Muy bien. Ahora vamos a seguir con el pretérito indefinido. ¿Sí? In your Spanish book, you're going to see pretérito indefinido. So it's indefinido. It's pretty definite. And that's so easy and nice because, it has my favorite vowel, which is the I. Yo di. I gave. Yo di. Di. You have to make sure you're pronouncing the Spanish I. I know I always tell you this. I look like a broken recorder, ¿no? Una grabadora descompuesta. Grabadora descompuesta is like a broken radio. I keep saying the same. It would be more like those big discs, right? and it's broken because it goes on the same. But I cannot tell you enough that D, I sometimes hear my students saying D, because the English I has different sounds. The sound of the I in Spanish is only one. And it's as if you were saying in English, for example, D with a double E, D, long, D. Let me get my eraser. Muy bien, aquí estamos. Entonces decimos D. Nice and long. D, not D. D. See, when you make this funny face, D is when you're making that I sound in Spanish. Correcto. Decimos, yo di, I gave. Tú diste, you gave, tú diste, ¿sí? Diste, closed, open, diste, tú diste, él, ella, o usted, 3 people. See, that's impressive, right? 3 people with the same conjugation, no? He, she, and you, formal. Porque, if you remember, porque si te acuerdas, en español tenemos el tú y el usted. Tú es informal, es casual con tus amigos y usted es más formal, ¿no? Con la gente que debes de hablar con las personas con las que entablas una comunicación formal. Usted dio. Ahora, dio es one syllable, so it shouldn't have an accent mark. Though in Latin America, often you're going to see it with an accent mark just because we pronounce it like that. Dio. It's as if we were making 2 syllables. Okay, so it's up to you. You don't have to, but because most verbs in this tense are going to have the accent in the O, you're going to see it very often. The Academy says it's not necessary because it's 1 syllable, but the use in Latin America, the oral use is reflected on the written aspect. Muy bien. Entonces, dio, ¿no? Usted, él, ella, dio. He gave, she gave, you, formal, you, my boss, gave. ¿Ok? ¿Qué sigue? Nosotros. ¿Qué es nosotros? We gave. Nosotros dimos. Dimos with our beautiful long E. Dimos. Nosotros dimos. Ustedes, ellos y ellas dieron. 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 ¿Sí? Ustedes, ellos y ellas dieron. That's you, plural. And that's they for women and they for men. Ellos o ellas. It depends. It depends the gender of the group. On the gender of the group. Ellos, ellas, ustedes. Again, tres personas. Ustedes, ellos y ellas. Una conjugación. Dieron. Otra vez, ¿cómo pronuncias esta palabra? Dieron. Dieron. And the E here, la I, en inglés you would say E. En español decimos E. En inglés you would say I. Dieron. Because you're going to go stronger there. Dieron. Dieron. ¿Ok? Muy bien. Ahora, ustedes, ellos y ellas dieron. En España dirían these days. These days. These days. Con la S así, pero fuerte. These days. ¿Sí? Vosotros disteis, con el pronombre vosotros que ellos usan y disteis. Ahora, and this is gave, the equivalent, right? Because we don't have only one. We have many conjugations for every person. Seguimos con el, what's the name of that? It's called imperfecto. Se llama pretérito imperfecto. Imperfecto, like non-perfect, the negation of perfecto. And yes, it is the negation of perfecto because in your mind, it's not a finished time. Muy bien. But we can go through that when you see my lesson, if you go to my lesson about that tense. Yo daba. Yo daba. I used to give. Tú dabas. You used to give. Tú dabas. Ella, él, usted daba. ¿Sí? That's he, she, and you, formal. Used to give. Nosotros dábamos. Sí, como tenemos el acento aquí, nosotros dábamos. Dábamos. La primera sílaba, da, es fuerte. Dábamos. Nosotros dábamos. ¿Sí? We used to give. Ustedes, ellos y ellas, you, plural, and they, ellos y ellas daban. ¿Sí? Ustedes, ellos y ellas daban. They, you, plural, used to give. En España dirían, vosotros dabáis, ¿sí? Con la S fuerte, dabáis. Pero eso solo lo dicen en España. En América no utilizamos el pronombre vosotros. Utilizamos el pronombre ustedes, ¿sí? Ustedes daban. That is the conjugation for presente, pretérito, pasado, e imperfecto, used to. This verb is commonly used with direct and indirect object pronouns. What are those? Well, you haven't watched my lesson about direct and indirect object pronouns. I suggest you watch it because it's a more comprehensive lesson about that topic, and I go in detail to that in that topic. Here, I only put the indirect object pronouns here so we can see how it works. Now, for each subject pronoun, que le llaman sujetos, pronombres de sujeto, I, you, he, she, they, we, it, those are the subject pronouns. Okay? These are like, for example, what you say to him, to her, to them, to us. Those are these pronouns. See? These are the equivalents, let's say. With this verb, you can make a lot of combinations with those objetos, with those object pronouns. ¿Por qué? Well, because to give, when you give something, you usually need another person to give that, right? The verb, the action wouldn't exist if it was only you. I mean, it would be reflexive, but then it would be very narcissistic. Yo me doy, no? It's para mí, me, yo. So, to give involves other people. With this verb, it's very important to get those pronouns in your head because the very action of it involves people, involves another entity, incluye a otra persona, ¿no? Entonces, por eso lo escribí aquí. That's what I wrote it here because we're going to do combinations. For example, if we say, imagine we have it, ¿no? And it es el libro, ¿no? Porque en español no tenemos el pronombre it para la cosa, ¿no? En general, la cosa, the thing, it, it's feminine or masculine, ¿sí? Sometimes, the feminine and the masculine, it's related to the sex of the animal, for example, el caballo, la mula, right? The mule and the horse, el caballo y la mula. There, the masculine and feminine gender, they correspond to the sex of the animal, right? But not always. So in Spanish, when you learn new words, you really need to learn them with the article, right? Because this it is going to be el o la. In this case, let's do an example with, let me get my eraser, mi borrador, ¿eh? Ay, qué pesada soy, ¿no? Que siempre se me olvida mi borrador. Now, let me tell you why. If I keep my eraser in my hands, si lo dejo en mis manos, siempre estoy jugando, ¿sí? Estoy moviéndolo. And then you get distracted because instead of looking at the board, you're looking at my unconscious playing with the eraser. So that's why I try not to keep it in my hand. So you focus on el pizarrón, ¿no? Que en España dicen la pizarra, sí, la pizarra. Nosotros decimos el pizarrón, ellos dicen la pizarra. It. Entonces, it, in this case, let's say it's a book, el libro, fácil, ¿no? El libro. Also, it makes sense, right? Because you always like, I don't know, if you are one of those people who lend books, then you maybe use it a lot, right? I don't lend books because then people don't return them, no los regresan. Then años después, ¿todavía tienes mi libro? ¿Ah? ¿Cuál libro? ¿Sí? No, entonces no presto libros. But maybe tú sí prestas libros. Maybe you lend books. So let's do an example with that. El libro. Let's say I gave the book to Cristina. I gave the book to Cristina. I gave the book to Cristina. Tenemos I, yo. Gave, vamos a poner yo. Hay otro color, ¿no? Negro y negro, no. Otro color. Rojo, para que resalte el rojo, ¿no? Rojo para que se vea. Yo, aquí, I gave the book to Cristina. Gave. I gave. Yo le di, ¿no? Yo di. I gave. Yo di. Tenemos aquí. Vamos a decir 1, yo di. 2, vamos a ponerlo chiquito, ¿sí? El libro. Yo di el libro. El libro. Tenemos aquí el objeto, the object. El libro. Vamos a poner aquí 3. I'll tell you why I'm going to put it small in a minute. Yo di el libro a Cristina. ¿Se entiende? Do you understand? Yeah. Yo di el libro a Cristina. But there's one thing that we do in Spanish. And it's a very strange thing we do. But we are redundant. We use the indirect object pronoun to be redundant, to clarify. And we say, yo le di el libro a Cristina. Yo, 1, le, 2, 3, yo le di el libro, 4, and then 5, Cristina. Cristina, ¿no? En español no se pone con H. Yo le di el libro a Cristina. Vamos a identificar. Yo le di el libro a Cristina. I gave the book to Cristina. Yo le di el libro a Cristina. And we do that redundance because if you say yo di el libro a Cristina, it's understood. It's clear. But we use like a Cristina. We also use her indirect object pronoun. So if it's Cristina, it's ella, ¿no? Ella es Cristina. Tenemos ella, which is the indirect object pronoun of Cristina. Le. Entonces, when you say that, you're going to say, yo le di el libro a Cristina. Before the verb, you're going to say, yo le di el libro a Cristina. Maybe you don't need Cristina, because in the context, it's clear that it was Cristina. Pero, tal vez en el contexto, they don't know. So you have to say her name. Now we're going to do that. Yo se lo di. Here, we're going to do this. Yo le di el libro a Cristina. I gave the book to Cristina. Then you can say, if you don't need to write, yo se lo di. What did I write here? Can you see? Yo se lo di. Do you identify something here? Yo, I, no? Yo. The gave, no? Gave. I gave. Which is the book and which is Cristina? Lo es el objeto directo, the object. What did I give? You ask the verb. What did I give? El libro. El libro, el objeto directo del libro, as you will watch in my video about direct and indirect object pronouns, el objeto directo is lo. See? This changes for lo. The book, lo. Which is Cristina? Se. Ay, why? Because we don't say yo le lo di. We don't say yo le lo di. First of all, lelo means like dumb. No? Lelo. Ser lelo is like to be dumb. Lelo. It's not a nice thing. But we don't do that because we don't want to say lelo. We do that because if you're going to summarize the phrase, you have to put before the object pronoun the indirect object pronoun. And the indirect object pronouns are here. And you say, but you don't have anything there that says se. But when that happens, that is going to become se. When you're going to put it before the lo, you're going to put se. So you say, yo se lo di. Now, there you are summarizing the whole thing. Yo le di el libro a Cristina. Yo se lo di. First of all, maybe you cannot say yo se lo di, I gave it to her. Maybe you cannot say that because in the context, you cannot summarize it. They don't know the details. They don't know that it was Cristina. They don't know that it was a book. So you cannot summarize it. But that's what we do when we do know the context. To replace the person and the thing for those pronouns. Mete, which are those pronouns are yo se lo di, yo te lo di. Mete, that would be lo, the direct, the thing, y los o las. See? But for now, we're going to do it with the verb to give. That is what you can do this with many verbs. But for now, we're doing it with the verb to give. Ahora, yo se lo di. Perfecto. Now let's analyze what I wrote here. Well, before we go, let's make one more exercise. Let's say we gave the table, let's say the table, to who? To Luis. Nosotros, we gave the table to Luis. Nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. Nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. Primero, nosotros. Uno. Nosotros. Dimos, gave, ¿correcto? Dimos. Tenemos aquí, vamos a identificarlo. Vamos a poner un círculo grande. Un círculo grande. Ahora azul. Color azul, ¿para qué? Pongas atención, ¿no? Porque más colores vas a decir, sí, más divertido con más colores. Entonces decía, nosotros, uno, le dimos, dos, we gave the table. Dimos, vamos a poner el círculo, dimos la mesa. Vamos a poner aquí la mesa. La mesa, bueno, fácil, ¿no? Termina en A. Entonces es femenino. In general, the things that end with A are feminine. In general, there are some exceptions. For example, words that come from the Greek. From Greek, a lot of those things are not feminine, even if they end with A. So let's remember that. But here, mesa creo que no viene del griego, entonces decimos la mesa, probablemente viene del latín, ¿no? El griego es como cosas más científicas, ¿no? El mapa, etc. La mesa. Nosotros dimos la mesa a Luis. A Luis. Y utilizamos la A porque, bueno, pues es una persona, ¿no? Luis es una persona y necesitamos la A. No podemos decir nosotros dimos la mesa a Luis. No. Dimos is like dimos, it's a movement verb. So we need the A even more because with verbs with movement, we need the A. if what's following is a person. Nosotros dimos la mesa a Luis. Dimos la mesa a Luis. ¿Quién es Luis? ¿Quién es Luis? Is it a she? Is it a you? Is it a... It's a he, no? Luis is a he. His subject pronoun is a he, let's say. Entonces, let's not say. It's a he. Luis. Entonces, Luis está aquí, ¿no? Él. ¿Cuál es el objeto indirecto de Luis? Le. Lo borré because of the explanation that I told you before the object pronoun. Le. So how are you going to build that sentence in Spanish? Yo, I, le di, yo, nosotros. I didn't say yo, nosotros. Nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. Ah. Nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. ¿Qué hay de diferente? What's the difference? Nosotros le dimos la mesa. Ah, it's no longer the book. Now it's the table and it's a feminine. Now we're gonna do la mesa. What is the object that replaces la mesa? La. Nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. Nosotros, let's say, la dimos a Luis. Nosotros la dimos a Luis. Voy a escribirlo aquí. Nosotros. ¿Dónde lo escribo? Lo voy a escribir aquí con el vosotros. Vamos a ponerlo aquí, ¿eh? Nosotros le dimos. Nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. A mí me gusta el nombre Luis porque así se llamaba mi cuñado, porque ya se murió. Pero ya, nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ahora, we're going to replace things. Oh, I love to do replacing, like summarize and make it smaller. ¿Sí? Nosotros le dimos la mesa a Luis. ¿Ok? Luis es... ¿Quién es Luis? El objeto indirecto, le. Le. La mesa. El objeto que le dimos, la mesa. What did we give? La mesa. To who? Indirecto. In my lesson, I teach you this, right? You have to ask the verb. What did we give? The table. To who? To Luis. And that's how you identify direct and indirect object pronouns. There are some things. You gotta watch that video. La is what replaces la mesa. Because it's not a book, it's not a masculine, it's a feminine, it's replaced with la. Now, we have nosotros le dimos la le. Doesn't make sense, no? How do we organize it to summarize it? Nosotros, I'm not going to write again, no lo voy a volver a escribir. Nosotros se la dimos. ¿Sí? Nosotros se la dimos. ¿Por qué se? Again, because before, if the indirect object pronoun goes before the direct one, le becomes se. So you can say, nosotros se la dimos. Now we're going to go to some phrases here. Not phrases, phrases are here. Phrases with DAR. Very nice, very useful. See? Dámelo. Dámelo is more like an order. Give it to me. Give it to me. Lo, you're saying give it to me. That is give, or the root of give. Dámelo. A mí. Dámelo. Give it to me. But you can just say dámelo. Instead of saying dame el libro. Give me the book. Dame el libro. Dámelo. ¿Sí? a mí, dámelo, give it to me. Dame el libro, give me the book. Dámelo, give it to me. We're replacing. Dáselo. Dáselo? What could it be, dáselo? Again, this is the book, right? What is this? Dáselo. It could be he, she, you singular, you plural, and they mixed and males. Dáselo. Give it to him, give it to her. If it was the books, what do you have to say? Dáselos. Now, give it to us. Danos el libro. Dánoslo. Dánoslo. Arriba. Dánoslo. Give us the book. Dánoslo. Danos, give us, danos el libro. Dáselos, give them, no? Give them to him or to her. Yes, dáselos. So as you can see, we can summarize a little bit with this, especially with to him, to her, to me. Now we're going to say, I give it to you. Te lo doy. That's different. You cannot summarize there. You cannot say doytelo. We don't say that. We say te lo doy. I give it to you. So you're using you. Te lo doy. Te doy el libro. Te lo doy. Te doy el libro. What am I saying here? Te lo doy, because I'm replacing it with its object, el libro. Te doy el libro. I give you the book. I give you the book in exchange for something else, let's say. But if you want to say te lo doy, if it's understood that it's a book, then you can replace it. Instead of saying te doy el libro, you're going to say te lo doy. Same here, se lo doy. To who? To him, to her, to you, formal. Se lo doy. ¿Qué? El libro. O la mesa, se la doy, si quieres, ¿no? Si quieres la mesa. Si quieres las mesas, se las doy. Si quieres los libros, se los doy, ¿sí? Nos lo das. Give it to us. Nos lo das. To us, it, to give. Nos lo das. Give us the book. Nos lo das. Nos lo das. To us. Nosotros. Lo, book. Nos la das, la mesa. Perfecto? Lastly, I would like to give you some phrases, some good phrases that we use in Spanish with the verb to give, dar. Me da pena. It's like when you feel shy. I feel self-conscious. I feel shy. Me da pena o me da vergüenza. And because you have the I here, the I, no. Vergüenza. Tiene la diéresis, los dos puntitos, ¿no? Entonces, that is a sign that you have to pronounce the U. If it doesn't have it, if you see it written and it doesn't have the 2 points and it comes after the G, then you're not going to pronounce it. But if it has the diéresis, you're going to say vergüenza. Repítelo. Vergüenza. Otra vez. Vergüenza. 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 Los españoles dirían vergüenza, ¿no? Porque ellos pronuncian la Z diferente. Vergüenza. Y nosotros decimos vergüenza. Pena. En Latinoamérica también decimos pena. Hace sinónimo vergüenza. Vergüenza is shame. Cuando te da vergüenza algo, when you feel shame about something, it doesn't really have that meaning of feeling shame. It's like when you feel shy or self-conscious. Me da vergüenza. Me da miedo. To feel scared. Me da miedo. Say, me da miedo. So I would say, me da miedo a mí, right? Me da miedo. A mí. Me da miedo. I'm scared. I feel scared. If it's him, es le da miedo. If it's you, singular, te da miedo. Te, le, nos. You're going to use again these pronouns. Me, te, nos, les. Te da miedo, te da pena, le da pena. To you, to him, to her. Le da miedo, nos da miedo. To us, les da miedo to them, ¿no? Them, to them. Now, asco. Oh, when you feel like, oh, me da asco. See? You don't want to do something because maybe a place te da asco. See? Something provokes you to feel sick, to feel like you want to throw up. Me da asco. See? Vómito is to vomit, vomitar. Vómito is the vomit. But asco is something that, like the feeling of it. You're not vomiting yet, but you don't feel well. You feel like you want to throw up. Me da asco. You're kind of disgusted by something. Me da asco. Something is disgusting, you're disgusted by it, maybe. Remordimiento. Me da remordimiento. To feel remorse. We say it, me da remordimiento. I feel remorse. Me da remordimiento. Very long, muy larga esta palabra. Vamos a hacer. Remordimiento. Lástima. To feel pity. Me da lástima. If something is actually making you feel pity for somebody, for something that's happening. Es dar lástima. All these phrases is dar pena, dar miedo, dar remordimiento, dar lástima. How do you use it with people? Me da lástima. I feel pity. Te da lástima. Te, como te, la T y la E. Te da lástima. To you. Para he, she, you, formal. Le da lástima. Le da lástima. Nos da lástima. Nos da lástima. ¿Sí? Les da lástima. To you, plural, they, or ellos o ellas. ¿No? Les da lástima. And I feel pity because my class is finished. Me da lástima. I feel, not really, right? Like, me da miedo, me da pena. No, I don't feel anything. I'm happy. Me da felicidad. I feel happy. We're finished our lesson. I hope you learned some Spanish today and you keep building your Spanish. Don't ever stop doing something to learn the language you want. If you're learning Spanish, every day, learn something, learn a verb, learn a word, learn a phrase, read something, write something, listen to something. Even if you start not understanding, you'll see that with time, you will recognize some words. That's why it's very important that you keep building the vocabulary, because vocabulary is going to allow you to recognize words when you listen to them and be able to understand, to comprehend more when Spanish speakers are talking fast. Spanish is a phonetic language. We pronounce the word the way it's written in general. I know a lot of us swallow some S, some sounds. But even so, if you know the word, if you build your vocabulary, you build your verbs, you are more likely to recognize them. So I encourage you to do something every day, something that is going to add to your Spanish. And to try to practice more. And if your Spanish friend is saying, but you want me to speak so slow, and they say, please, I'm learning Spanish. You need to slow down. You need to explain to me, like, just practice Spanish with me. Muy bien. Muchas gracias por ver mi video. I'm glad to see you. Estoy muy feliz de verte. Espero verte muy pronto. I hope to see you very soon. Have fun. Have a good weekend. Have a good week. ¿Sí? Que tengas un bonito fin de semana, una bonita semana. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, ¿sí? To get the alerts every time I upload a video. Don't forget to sign up to get my newsletter at butterflyspanish.com. And muchas gracias y nos vemos muy pronto, ¿eh? Saludos, hasta luego. Salúdame a tu mamá, ¿eh?